Hello guys, I am back from another video, and today we talk about what if Deku was an Oni. So in the last video we talked about how, during their time getting ready for the USJ, they made it there without anything bad happening, until the League of Villains arrived. So, when the League of Villains arrived, well, it's a bit different. Unlike in canon, Izuku was brought to a rundown facility. What do I mean by this? Well, the facility almost looks like a city that's basically in ruins. And he was with, instead of Ochako and Mineta, not Ochako, I meant like Sue, or Sue Asui, but instead it's Kinako, aka his adopted sister, and the now yandere, the now yandere girl, aka Ibara. And it's not helping that she's basically religious, so she thinks that is her destiny. Oh boy. So, after they got teleported thanks to Konagiri, they basically tried to formulate a plan to get back to their, get back to the middle of the USJ. So after defeating some villains, and they basically arrived at the somewhat middle of the USJ, they see that Aizawa is being beaten to the ground by the Nomu. After defeating the Nobu, thanks to all three of them basically working in unison, the heroes arrived and basically started beating down, Shigaraki, but unfortunately he escaped. So, after he was told to go into the principal's office to talk about what happened in the USJ, he would explain that apparently the Nomu had multiple quirks. And when All Might heard of this, he was quite pissed. Not really pissed, but more kind of scared and angry. So, after he left, I meant All Might and also Principal Nezu are gonna have their work cut out for them, because this is gonna be a bit of trouble, to say the least. So yeah, that is basically what happened last episode. And so, let's talk about what happens next. So, it's been a few weeks after the whole, incident, because after that little incident happened, they were told by, their teacher, aka Aizawa, that they're going to have a few weeks off, and also told them that they should train during those few weeks to prepare for the UA Sports Festival, which everybody was excited, including Izuku, because Izuku wants to show everybody that he's quite powerful. So, he's been training on his swordsmanship and also learning how to use his kanabo and also learning how to regenerate pretty fast. He's also been learning how to use his kunai much better, even though kunai are mostly used as just like tools instead of like actual thrive. So yeah, I'm just gonna go for the Naruto route. So just imagine him just like using it just like in the anime. Even though I kind of forgot how to, even though I used to like Naruto, I don't really remember much of the plot. So yeah. So, after a while of basically just like playing around, doing whatever he wants, also training a little bit sometimes, and also, for Ibara, she's starting to become even more obsessive towards, Izuku, which more and more she does, the more she's more like, acting like Hinata, I think that's her name. I kind of forgot her name. She's basically like Naruto's lover or whatever. But just imagine her, but much more yandere-ish. So yeah, just imagine her just like lurking in the shadows, basically looking at him every single night. Not even joking. So yeah. So, after those few weeks were up, it's finally time for them to prepare for the sports festival. Everybody is basically excited, including Izuku, now putting his sword on his, the backside of his waist, and also wielding his kabo, basically just like wielding it on his back, as everybody's basically excited. So, Aizawa tells everybody to get out the classroom to go to the large stadium, as when they get out, they saw that many students are basically going in there. Some of them glaring at Class 1A, mostly at Bakugo, which after that little rumor came out, aka Bakugo almost trying to kill one of his, fellow students, aka Izuku, they were glaring at him after that. let's just say he's now hated. Not really hated, but more like, horribly angered. So, after they gone into the stadium, they see several people basically just like cheering for them, including, Izuku's parents, aka, Kiniko's parents, aka their parents or whatever. So, after we're told to basically get in line, one of these teachers, specifically Midnight, basically tells one of the UA representatives, specifically the first year representative, to step up. In this case, Bakugo, which you probably know what is going to happen next. Bakugo does his old stick, which is basically telling everybody that he's going to become number one and nobody's going to stop him, including the damn nerd over there, aka Izuku, which everybody was pissed at, including the rest of the students. So yeah, let's just say 1A is now going to be targeting Bakugo now. Yep. Seriously, Bakugo. Can you at least stop? Anyway, so the first event basically starts, which is the that event, aka the obstacle race. Wait for a second. So after it was announced that the first event was the obstacle race, everybody is basically getting ready, doing stretches and also doing a bit of like sprinting to help them out. Izuku is basically getting ready as well, as everybody was, getting into their positions. As one of the Class 1A, students basically bumps into Bakugo, causing him to basically trying to fight him. So yeah, that person, let's just say his face is basically broken. And that face was Monoma, which, let's just say he was pissed. So yeah, after that, they were told by Midnight that it was time. As she would say, 3, 2, 1, as she would basically crack her whip onto the ground as the event would start. Everybody's completely, in sync, basically, instantly running. But one of these students, specifically, Shoto Todoroki, would start creating ice, making everybody, frozen. Everybody would basically freeze up, except for Izuku, because Izuku was basically up in the air at that time, basically jumping around, but thankfully he didn't get frozen, but he's currently on, some thin ice. Not even a pun. I didn't really mean to do that pun. So, Izuku is currently trying to stand on this ice as one of his, classmates, specifically Bakugo, would basically break his ice and basically start flying around using explosions to basically propel himself. Izuku would think like that and decide to use his Kanabo in conjunction with, his, sword to basically start using it kind of like a, actually kind of like ice skate, if you could say that. So, he would basically start sliding around on this ice as he would jump down, no longer in this icy So, he would start running as usual, as he would see that many zero-pointers are basically blocking their way, shooting out, for whatever reason, freaking missiles. So, everybody is basically dodging these missiles, and as for Izuku, he would start cutting them down, basically defending himself and the rest of the students. Some of these people are seeing that Izuku is basically protecting some of the students, which the parents are pretty thankful for. But some of the other students basically see that Bakugo is basically causing all of this by using explosions to basically just propel himself, which caused so much damage, including, almost causing a student's life to be shortened. So, Izuku basically saves the student as it causes everybody to, hate Bakugo even more. Take a guess why I hate Bakugo. Anyway, so, Bakugo is basically just ignoring everybody's booing, but everybody starts praising Izuku. Izuku would start running even more as he would make it to one of the obstacles, being the large, pit. Or, actually, wait for a second. Ravine. So, after he finds a way to basically get, to the other side, he would basically start running and as far as he can, grabbing his sword and basically embedding it into the large wall, using two of his kunai to basically try and, climb his way out of there. So, he would start running again, grabbing his sword, as he would make it to the large tunnel, which where the minefield happens. So, Izuku could kind of see the minefield for some reason. Every time he blinks one of his eyes, specifically the this eye, the one that's just pure green instead of this, blue one, he would see that the minefield is basically like visible for some odd reason. So he would start carefully trying to get out of the way from these, mines by basically just like tiptoeing. When Bakugo basically arrives, seeing that Izuku's about to beat him, he would basically cause one of these, mines to basically explode right in Izuku's, direction. Which everybody would see that Izuku's basically, just a smoldering skeleton, which everybody was horrified. Even the which, for surprisingly, two teachers were not even surprised, being All Might and you probably know him, being Shoto Aizawa. As everybody's just like horrified seeing that this kid, the one with the explosion quirk, basically killed the person. And not only that, a person that was being praised, which Bakugo didn't really care, just as long as he gets to become the #1 hero. But everybody would see that his body would start regenerating, as he would scream out, "What the hell, Bakugo? Are you crazy?" As Bakugo would say this. Besides, you have a regeneration quirk or whatever. I'm gonna be leaving. So, keep up, nerd. As Izuku becomes second place. So, after that little incident in the sports festival, everybody was even more determined to think that Bakugo is basically the, villain of the story. I mean, you're not wrong, because actually I'm not going to say anything about that, because this is going to be pretty important later in the story, to say the least. So, after that, it was the second event. In this case, the second event is the cavalry battle. So, everybody's basically flocking towards every single, student of Class 1A, and some from Class 1B. As for Izuku, he would start getting, requests to maybe get joined by, many other students. So, he would decide to pick these students in particular. In these cases, they are Kineko, Ibara, and finally, a surprising one, to be sure, but a welcome one. In this case, surprisingly, Monoma. Because Monoma thinks that, the enemy of my enemy is my ally, so he decided to, join him because he hates Bakugo the most. And not only that, he sort of got a bit of, a kick after seeing, Izuku basically almost getting killed, which, when Monoma saw that, he felt sympathy, but until Izuku regenerated, he just goes like, "I didn't know that!" So, yeah. So, as for everybody else, Bakugo would get a measly 2 people that decided to join him. In this case, Mina Ashido and Kirishima, which they didn't have any time to pick anybody else, so unfortunately they're going to be staying with the literal blonde murderer over there. So, yeah. So, when the event started, everybody's basically charging towards Bakugo because he gets, because he got the #1, thing, or he was #1 in the first event. So everybody's looking for them, points. And as for Izuku, he decided to capitalize on this and decide to steal many others that are basically trying to chase after Bakugo. So Izuku would start grabbing everybody else's, which he would get many points, but not as much as Bakugo. Bakugo would start chasing Izuku as he would ask, Ibara to use her hair to basically restrain him. Bakugo would try to get out using explosions, which, when Izuku saw that she was in pain, he would tell her to basically, let go. After she let go, Bakugo would start charging towards, Izuku. Wait for a second, god dang it. Basically chasing towards, Izuku, Well, a certain person would basically try and protect him. In this case, Kinako. Kinako would basically use her quirk to basically cause a gigantic ass mushroom to basically appear, causing Baku to almost fall, but thanks to his, little teammates, which were forced to, join Bakugo to basically try and catch him. Thankfully, they do, as the match was over. So, apparently, the number one of this match was Izuku. So, when Bakugo hears this, he was pissed and started, shitting out profanities left and right at both of his, teammates and including Izuku. Everybody's starting to get a bad taste in their mouth just thinking about, Bakugo getting, number one because of his attitude. So, and for the final event, it's the one-on-one battles. So, as everybody's just excited to know that, Bakugo's pride is basically shattered, and also knowing that, Bakugo is going to, going to join this, final event, which everybody else is just like, great. So, everybody's basically waiting for their matches. As it turns out, Izuku is going to be fighting a kid by the name of Shinso. Izuku doesn't know about him at all, which he thinks that he probably has some sort of quirk relating to something of the sort. So, while he's basically waiting and basically just like stretching a little bit, maybe having a bit of exercise and also training with his blade, he would get approached by this girl with, well, not really blonde hair, more like, wait for a second, like, she would have, like, orange hair and green eyes, similar to him, but Izuku only has one green eye, as she would say this, hello there, as you would look over and see a girl. In this case, the girl looks like what I told you about, as he would say this, what do you want? As she would say this, that kid over there, that's my classmate. You're gonna be fighting him, right? As you would say this. Yeah, so what do you want? As she would say this. That's Shinso. He has a brainwashing quirk. After hearing about this, he would say this. A brainwashing quirk, you say? As she would say this. Yeah, this quirk allows him to control the minds of others. Not only that, it has a kind of a big weakness. As he would say this. Really? She would say, yeah. And this weakness is, if you don't really talk to him at all, you won't get controlled. So it's better to not answer his questions, or his insults. As Izuku would say this. Huh. Very well then. Thanks for the help, miss. As she would say this. Kendo. Just call me Kendo. And your skills in swordsmanship is amazing. What type of martial art do you use? As he would say this. Oh, it's just my own technique. As she would say this. Wait, really? I thought you might have, like, joined some sort of, like, kendo school or something. As he would say this. No, not at all. Anyway. So, as he would start rubbing the back of his neck, as he would say, damn, why is that girl kinda cute, though? Whatever. Besides, I kind of fell in love with somebody else anyway. As when, he was not looking, well, another girl was basically watching all of this. In this case, it was Ibarra, which Ibarra was basically looking at, Kendo a lot. As she would start clenching her fist and saying to herself, that girl is going to be a problem. She's never going to touch my Izuku. Never. Even though I detest the sin of vanity, I will not let anybody touch him but me. So, yeah. Yep, the little Christian girl over there is now obsessed with Yandere. Great! Well, oh boy. So, the first match starts as everybody's basically excited, seeing Izuku getting ready to fight this boy. So, when the match starts, this boy would start shooting out insults at him, saying, so, how's it having a great quirk? Or at least something of the sort. As he would start shooting out like more and more insults, but Izuku would just ignore it. After all, he does know about his quirk's power, thanks to Kendo, as he would say something that kinda pissed him off. In this case, he would say, "So, why is a demon like you in this school anyway?" So, Izuku would stop, as he would say this. "Come on! What is a demon like you in this school anyway? You have 4 horns. You're a goddamn demon. And besides, even though that Bakugo kid was causing so much trouble in the last event, I consider you as the worst thing imaginable. You're a fucking demon." Izuku would hear this, as he would get pissed off, as he would charge forward at him, as he didn't know that he's about to get, getting punched in the face, but he does. Getting punched in the face so much that he would, start flying away, causing him to get knocked out, as Izuku's basically the winner. Izuku would say this: "Do not call me a demon. Besides, even though you have a villainous quirk, it doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is your actions, not how you use your quirk or whatever." As when he heard that, he would give a smile. A genuine, happy smile. So, the next event is basically just like in canon. Kind of. So, after seeing Bako basically beating up Ochako to the point that she was about to die, everybody's starting to hate Bako even more and more. Even some of the, heroes that are planning on maybe, recruiting him into their, agencies decide to just, not do it because of this kid's, little actions in this sports festival. Well, they decide no, we're not taking the kid. So, yeah. So, the next event comes as it's him versus a certain boy. In this case, this boy was... his name was Shoto Todoroki. So, after Izuku hears this, he would start getting a bit, down below. He really needs to take a piss. So, he would start going to the bathroom as, after he took a piss, he would be confronted by this man. He would hear, "Hey, boy, I heard that you're fighting my son." As he would look behind him, as he would see the number 2 hero, Endeavor. As he would say this: "So I heard that you're fighting my son. So, I want to have a bit of a request for you." As he would say this. A request? I never really got one. Not less from a hero like you. As he would say this. You should be honored. Anyway, I want you to do this. I want you to make my son use his fire side. As he would say this. Sure, whatever. As he would say this. Good. As he would say this, but at a cost. As he would look over, as he would say this. What? As he would say this. How about this? If I win, how would you decide to let me join your agency? But if I lose, guess no thanks then. As he would say this. Just as long as he uses his fireside, I don't really care. As he would say this. Sure thing, Mr. Endeavor. As he would start to leave. So, the event would basically get on its way. Apparently, Shoto Todoroki, well, he sort of got into a fight with Bakugo Katsuki, which apparently makes Izuku the winner by default. Everybody was just like, what? As Bakugo would just basically in the corner, basically still wrapped up in bandages, would be pissed off at. So, yeah. So, Endeavor would be pissed at Mr. Bakugo, which now he's even more determined into, trying to make Shoto even more stronger than now. Oh boy, this is gonna be a train wreck. So, yeah, after being told that he's basically the winner by default, the next match is between him and apparently by another student. Apparently, this student was a pretty, like, a random student to say the least. He's just like a random student. So, after being told of this, he would start going up to the plates as he would go onto the, arena. Seeing the boy, it was just a random boy from, like, a random class. So, the battle begins as before they can do anything, a portal would appear, as several villains would arrive, as some of these villains would basically start literally attacking the stadium, throwing like fireballs, even energy balls at, well, several different like civilians. And as for Izuku and the random student, they start escaping, going into the, the actual the actual entrance. The heroes would basically arrive and try to at least stop them. But unfortunately, the villains are pretty strong, but the top 10 heroes would arrive to try and stop them as well. The heroes and villains are currently at a standstill until the League of Villains would bring out their most powerful weapon yet, a new type of Nomu. This Nomu seems to be much more stronger, and it doesn't have an exposed brain anymore. As Izuku would see this, as he would say this to himself. I guess I'll fight this thing then. As he would jump over there, basically clad in his, hero costume, basically wielding his kanabo, basically putting it up onto his, shoulder. As for his sword, he would start wielding it in his mouth, similar to Zoro from One Piece. So, he would start charging towards one of the Nomus, which is the Nomu that doesn't have an exposed brain, as he would start clashing with them. One of the heroes, specifically Endeavor, would see this, thinking, this boy is quite strong. I wonder if I can sell him off, or at least marry him off to Fuyumi. Oh god. I'm not gonna be planning on, making Izuku marry Fuyumi. Not at all, because, the main ship is currently, with Kinako and Ibara, so unfortunately there's no gonna be a ship with him and, Fuyumi, so yeah. So, Izuku is basically clashing with the, Nomu, as the Nomu would basically punch him so hard, basically causing him to be thrown into a wall. Wait for a second. After he gets pushed into a wall, everybody would just stop, as they think that the child is about to get killed. But when the Nomu basically sees the child basically in that wall being Izuku, he would start charging forward as he basically punches his chest. As blood would come out, you would see through the child. Izuku looks like he's finally dead, seeing that his heart is basically stopped. In fact, you don't even see the heart, because that chest over there of Izuku, well, there's a massive hole. The villains would basically laugh, as everybody, including the UA teachers, were basically horrified, including All Might, seeing that Oni basically changed now. The Oni that they thought it was a monster has lost his memories and basically became a model student. But him just to die, it pissed off All Might, as he would start getting angry and start charging towards one of the, Nomus that basically killed him. But one of them would notice that Izuku's body is completely gone, including one of the, teachers specifically, Midnight, would notice that Izuku is basically standing up, with the whole chest thing basically gone. What do I mean by this? Well, his chest started to regrow, his face covered in shadow. His face is obscured by shadow itself, as his markings started growing. As for his mask that he was wearing during that whole fight, it started growing even more, transforming into a full mask. His horns started fusing, turning into two horns. Two large ones, in fact. As for his sword would become bigger. His kanabo would start changing, fusing into his arm. As he would roar like a monster, like a beast, unchained. As he would look at all of the villains, as his voice distorted, saying, I will kill you! As he would roar with such conviction that every single hero was basically scared. Almost like the bloodlust from, like, just like, stains like bloodlust. So, Izuku would start, he would start charging forward at one of the villains. As this, unfortunately, is going to be the end of this episode. Sorry. So, we're gonna be leaving it off at a cliffhanger. So, yeah. So, this is gonna be the end of this episode. And so, I hope you liked the video. Comment and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!